Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel, and hi to all my new subscribers. Now today's video is about landing. Why? Because I've had a hell of a job trying to land. I've made some terrible landings. I see, if you've followed my YouTube channel for some time, you'll know I do very bad landings. Now I thought I almost had them off pat. I was really improving, but then I went and bought this new fancy flight yoke and throttle quadrant, and it was like I was learning all over again. You know, I couldn't get it right. I had to learn to take off and maneuver, and then when I tried to land, the plane was just floating down the runway. It would want to take off again when I tried to push it down onto the runway. I had a heck of a job. So over the last day or two, I've been practicing my landings. Now I know I'm not the only person that has this problem, because I often see in the comments, oh, when I try and land this plane, it keeps floating and wants to take off again. So today I'm going to show you how I managed to get around that problem, how I've managed to get a nice smooth landing in this 737. Now it's not a tutorial, I'm not an expert, I'm not a pilot or a big time YouTuber. I'm a real basic amateur beginner, so I'm just showing you how I got over the problem. Okay, so you can, if it helps someone else or if you find it entertaining, that's all good. Okay, now what I've done is I've set up a simple flight plan here, and one thing I learned very early on when I was practicing my landings is that a landing is only as good as your approach. And as you can see on this flight plan, I've chosen John Wayne Airport, KSNA, because it's very close to KLAX. So I can take off, come up to 4,000 feet, just swing around here, come down to 3,000 feet when I hit my final approach, and then just come straight in and practice my landings. If it goes well or not well, doesn't matter. I can push the escape and then choose restart, and then I'll be back here at John Wayne International again, John Wayne Orange County Airport, very close. So I could just hit restart as many times as I want, take off, swing around here, and come in for a landing to practice my landings. So that's what I've been doing. Set up a very simple flight plan, take off from somewhere very close, and then have a nice, casual, friendly, easy turn into your final approach. So there's no drastic maneuvers or nothing required too much of the plane. The passengers are going to be comfortable. Just come around for a nice slow turn onto your approach, and when you hit your approach, when you come around to be on your final approach, that's where you want to be at 3,000 feet. And I always plan to be around about 180, 190 knots as I come around onto my final approach. And when I'm on my final approach, I get the speed down to my landing speed, which traditionally, or the last month or two, I've came in at 135 knots, 140 knots. I've since found out that is way too fast. Since I've had this flight yoke, I've had to change my way of thinking and change the way I do things, because the plane just wouldn't land. It just wanted to take off. So I found that I had to lower my speed right down to 120 or 125 knots as I came in for a landing, really slow. And that's probably about right. You know, when you think about it, a plane takes off because it needs two things to take off. It needs lift and it needs inertia. And if you're getting too much lift and too much inertia, too much lift usually means that you've got too much inertia, or you're going too fast, because that's what gives you the lift, and that's what makes the plane want to take off. So you need to bleed off speed and come in a lot slower, so the plane doesn't keep thinking that you want to take off. So I've cut my landing and approach speeds right down to 120, 125 knots. And that seems to work just fine, full flaps. Okay, so we've set up this flight plan, and we're going to go from here, and we're going to fly around, and we're going to practice a few landings in KLAX. Okay, so here we are at KSNA in our lovely 737 in the KLM livery, which just looks absolutely stunning, just beautiful. And this is where we're going to take off from, and we're going to fly around to the right and land at KLAX. Now I've got the camera lined up with my flight yoke, so you can see how I pull back and land and handle the flight yoke as I come in for a landing. And my levers here, this one is the throttle. Now if I want to put it into reverse thrust, I'll bring the here so you can see my engines. To put it in reverse thrust, I click it down and then push it forward, and you can see my reverse thrusters come on. So I bring my throttle down, click it down again, and you'll see my reverse thrusters come off, and then I've just got it goes into the normal throttle sort of setup. Now this one is my flaps. When I click it down once, my flaps will come down, as you can see there. Click it down again, they will come down, and they will come down in stages as I click my flaps. Now when I finish landing and I want my flaps up, I just bring my flap lever up and back down, and the flaps will start to retract and they will come all the way up. So I just click it down once to drop my flaps down in stages, and then I just bring it all the way to the top and back, and my flaps will return back fully retracted. Now this one here is my speed brake, so I click it down once and the speed brakes will come on. Click it down again and the speed brakes will come off. Now the little button underneath the throttle here is my park brake. The next one is my view camera, so if I hit that, I'll return to the cockpit view. I've changed it slightly since the last video. And then my trigger button up here will take me back to the outside view. So that's my internal cockpit, snap back to cockpit view. This one on the right here, on the far right, under the speed brake, will disconnect the autopilot, okay? So in the cockpit, I can turn off the auto throttle here, turn off the flight director, and then I don't have to pan around to try and find the auto throttle button. I can just click this button down here under the speed brake there, click that button, and it will turn off my autopilot. So then I can just stay focused on my landing. I don't have to look around the cockpit at any time. Okay, so we are ready to depart. I'm going to turn this off just temporary there. Now if we go outside, you can see my flaps. I need to lower my flaps, so I'm going to bring my flaps down 3. 1, 2, 3. I trim down slightly, and I'm going to bring up my throttles, and we'll depart, and we'll head round towards KLAX, and we'll try a bit of a landing. Take off my brakes, and away we go. G to bring up my gear. I should have tried to keep the plane dead center in the middle of the runway. Would have been better. Right, bring up my flaps. Try and keep my plane at 10, 15 degrees, climb out.
132.7 for Jet and Juliet India Alpha 100.
Right, I'll come around to the right and I'm going to intercept my flight plan. Remember, I don't want to go up too high. I want to stay about 4,000 feet because I'm going to be landing actually very, very soon. So I'll come over here, turn on the flight director, turn on the auto throttle, turn on LNAV, turn on the IAS, turn on altitude hold, and turn on the autopilot. Now I've done that, I can bring my throttle back to the idle position because the oil throttle is working. Now I want to set my altitude at 4,000 feet. I don't want to go up to 10,000 feet because, like I said, I'm going to be landing very, very soon. We're already at 5,000 feet, so we need to come down a little bit. So I'll set my vertical speed to minus 1,450. So we'll stay down at 4,000 feet. My speed can come up a little bit. Now we're not too worried about procedures and rules and all those kind of things, flight rules and regulations and procedures. Remember, we're just here to practice our landing, okay? So we're just taking off so we can get round and do our approach and do our landing. We don't care about anything else at this stage, all right? Lovely day, bit of clouds. So we're heading out towards the end of this peninsula here. Then we're going to turn around to the right and we're going to land at KLAX. If I hit V, bring up my V map, you'll see my flight plan here. We're coming along here, doing a swoop round to the right. So when I'm coming around to the right towards my final approach, I will be at 3,000 feet. And just under 200 knots. Okay, so there's not much to do on the actual controls here. The flight yoke, the autopilot is doing everything. Let's just check that we are at 4,000 feet. We don't want to be too high because we're coming around to our final approach very, very soon. Around 200 knots is good. Okay, now when we finish, we can just hit escape, of course, and press restart, and we'll be back at KSNA ready to practice our run and our landing all over again. And you can do it as many times as you like. You can do it all day and all night until you get a beautiful, smooth landing, okay? And I'm not perfect. I'm not good. I'm just learning as I go here and showing you how I do it. Because if I manage to do it, then anybody can do it, okay? If a dummy can do it, anyone can do it. Now, what I changed on my assignments here too is this little button that flicks over to the right and the left I used for the rudders. I was having trouble resetting the rudders, so I've reassigned this red button to center the rudder. So once I turn it to the left or the right, I just hit the red button here right above it. That'll center my rudders, so I'll be going in a straight line again. So makes it nice and simple. Okay, so we've got a little way to go out to the end of the peninsula, and I'll join up with you when we turn around closer to our final approach. So how have you guys been going? Hope you're all doing well. Hope you're all happy and keeping safe and healthy. I haven't been going out very much, to be honest. I've been putting around out in my workshop with the business. I've had a few things to do, but ducking out for a bit of shopping. Other than that, I have not been out and about at all much. Pretty much just potting around at home in the workshop or in the office or on the computer, basically. So what have you guys been up to? Hope you've been keeping yourselves busy and out of trouble. Okay, we're going to be turning around to the right very soon and heading over towards our final approach. So I'm going to slowly bring my altitude down to 3,000 feet. Just nice and slowly, no rush to get down to 3,000 feet, but I like to be prepared before I actually need to be there. Be prepared early is better than preparing too late, so I'll set my vertical speed at a nice gentle 1,000, so my descent will be very, very slow and gentle. as I float through these happy, friendly little clouds. And we'll be turning around to the right now. My speed is still at over 200, but that's fine. We can bleed off some speed very, very quickly later on when we get closer to our finals. I've been getting a bit impatient waiting for PMDG 737. It just seems like it's never ever going to get here. Every so often they'll release a photo or 2 photos and that's about it. Saying we're still working on fixing problems, I'm getting a bit fed up of waiting actually. It's taking forever. April, May or June, they're talking about maybe May, late May. I think it'll probably be June or late June. But who knows. One thing's for sure, it will be a beautiful plane when it does arrive. But anyway, we've got this lovely 737 to fly until it does get here. Like I've said on previous videos, I'll probably keep flying this one anyway because I do enjoy flying the MAX, 737 MAX now. I've really got used to it. I really enjoy it. And I think there'll be room in the simulator for both 737s, the 737-700 PMDGs, and also the 737 MAX. I think there's plenty of room for both 737s to operate in the simulator for you know, basically something for everyone. And I'll be using both, I think, for my virtual airline. Okay, so we did a turn over to the right. And we've got another couple of little turns to the right, and then we'll be heading inland towards Los Angeles. Let's just check our speed and our altitude. We are now at 3,000 feet, and we're now just a tad over 200 knots, so that is fine. No rush at all. We've got all day. Now that I am finally getting used to this flight yoke and throttle quadrant, I am just loving it. Can't believe I didn't do it earlier. It is quite a lot of money to fork out, but boy, it does enhance your experience and the inertia of flying a plane so much better than just using a keyboard or a doogie old joystick. If you don't have one, I would strongly recommend you save your pennies and work towards getting a flight yoke and a throttle quadrant. It really does enhance the experience of flying an airplane. It really does. Okay, so we're just coming up to our last right turn onto our finals. So I'll bring my speed down a little bit, just under 200 knots. Maybe 190 knots. Just one more turn round to the right, and then we'll be heading inland. Here we go, turn around to the right now. Bring my speed down a tweak to 160, maybe 150 for now. 150. I'm going to stay at 3,000 feet until I hit the approach hold mode. Maybe start dropping some flaps. And I think I can bring my gear down. Like I said, I'm not too worried about rules, regulations and procedures. We're just here today to practice getting this plane down smoothly on the runway. So don't worry too much, guys, about the correct procedures at this stage. I'm not that good at them anyway. Okay, just another slight turn to the right, and then we'll be directly in front of the runway. And when I'm directly in front of the runway, there we go, we've got our magenta diamond has activated here. Got one more that will come down and activate later. When this magenta diamond is in the middle, means we're directly in front and in line with our runway, then I will hit the approach hold mode. It's coming over now nicely. Get ready. Put my mouse cursor over the approach hold button, ready to go. Okay, approach hold mode is engaged, that is activated, and you'll see the plane start to adjust itself now. Gear down, check. Going to bring our flaps down a little bit more as our speed comes down. Now we're going to really work on our speed on this last final stage. I've got to work on getting my speed down now to 120 or 125 knots. If I have to use my speed brakes, I will, but we've got to bleed off speed so we can get down to 125 knots or thereabouts. Our speed still at 169. We are descending, of course, so that is tending to want to speed up our plane. So I am going to engage my speed brakes, just a touch, just to try and bleed off that little bit of speed before we land. We're still at 166 knots and I want to be way slower than that. Let's bring our flaps down a bit more. Let's get our flaps right down. The pitch of the nose of the plane was really pitching up, which means it's struggling to keep at that altitude at that speed. So that's when you need to start dropping some flaps, and then you'll see the nose of the plane come down and it will start to level out. Okay, we're now down to 123 knots. I'll take off my speed brakes. Get rid of the map. Okay, so the second diamond has activated itself. That'll come down towards the center. Our speed is 124 knots, so that is brilliant. Beautiful. And we are on glide slope. Our flaps are down full. Our gear is down. We are configured and ready for a nice smooth landing. Now, like I said, you want a nice, smooth approach, a good flight plan so that you can get your plane completely configured for landing a long way out, at least 10 miles out from the runway, I reckon. I may be wrong, but you want to be well configured for landing way out from the runway. A long way out. You better be completely configured and ready to go too early than too late, I tell you. So a nice, long, gentle final approach increases your chances of a nice, smooth landing. So when we touch down, I will apply the speed brakes. And I will try and engage the reverse thrust. Sometimes, I don't know why, it doesn't go first time. You've got to do it a couple of times. It can be a bit disconcerting sometimes, but hopefully this time it will do everything it's supposed to do. so we're down full flaps. Right, here we are. We are coming in as straight as an arrow and looking good. Our speed 125 knots, and we're on the diamonds. Now your speed for landing, of course, depends a lot on the weight of your aircraft and your payload, of course, depending on how many passengers, how much freight or luggage you're carrying. So all that really needs to go into your calculations as well. But to be honest, I'm not really that advanced, okay? I'm just flying the plane as it is, default, as the plane loads up by default. And that's how I fly it at this stage. Later on, when I get more advanced, I'll be able to play around a bit more with the payload and then the speeds and all those kind of things. But not at the moment. I'm going to leave the camera on the yoke so you can see how I do my flare just as I touch down. I'm going to leave the autopilot on a little bit longer than what I have done in the past. Okay, I need to get ready and prepared to turn off the auto throttle, the flight director, and hit this button on my yoke for the autopilot. So it's going to be a bit busy. Check, got my throttle in idle, on idle.
400. 300. 200.
Okay, auto throttle off, autopilot off.
50. 40. 30.
Speed brake on.
10.
Try and keep it in the middle of the runway. Reverse thrust. You can see there the reverse thrust didn't come on. There it is, it's on now. Okay, reverse thrust off, flaps up, throttle up. Now I think that was a nice smooth landing. I still need to make some improvements. I didn't really want to stop on the runway. Okay, so that is my bad, my fault. And that is going to be something that I need to work on, something that I need to practice over the next few days. I seem to have the approach good, the landing good, nice and smooth. But I've got to keep the plane moving when I touch down. I can't just throw out all the anchors and the brakes and come to a stop. I need to be able to roll gently off the runway. And that is the next thing that I need to work on, the next thing that I need to practice. So as we're touching down, a little bit of flare on the yoke, apply the speed brakes, reverse thrust, and then concentrate on trying to keep the plane in the middle of the runway, close to that white line, as close to the white line as possible. Now I'm going to try and use my rudders for steering with my new rudder setup. Let's see if it works. Okay, just use my rudders, stop using my yoke. That seems to be okay. Just using this button here on my yoke. just hit the red button to straighten the to center the rudder. Okay, just come up to the yellow line and apply the brakes. And there we go, we are parked at the gate exactly in the right place where we are supposed to be. We can go on in and shut down the engines. Okay guys, well, I hope that was helpful in some way, if not at least entertaining. I've still got a long way to go with my landings, okay? My taxiing and my landing skills, I have a long way to go. A lot to learn, and that's what makes the game, the simulator, so good. If it was helpful to someone today in any way, shape or form, that is a bonus for me. But I enjoy myself. I'm just going to keep on clicking on restart and just keep coming in, taking off and landing and taking off and landing until I'm 100% happy that I can do a nice smooth landing and a nice smooth taxi to the gate. Alright, hope you enjoyed that. I did, if nobody else did. And stay safe guys, take care, enjoy your flying, and I'll talk to you again soon on the next video. Cheers.